what'd you do to your car?
Side skirts, the front splitter, rear slats, mine's exhaust, HKS coilovers, active suspension.
You have a really, really interesting background.
I played football, yeah. United States Naval Academy, played football for a great team.
Yeah.
And then when I graduate, be able to serve as an officer in the United States Navy. Found my way into the NASCAR world. From the day I decided to when I actually got into a real race car was like 4 months, which is crazy.
No one puts Jesse in a box.
That's when the fire comes out.
Yeah. All right. Jesse Iwuji, welcome to the Creative Drive Podcast. This is a podcast brought to you by Racer.com. It's the podcast dedicated to exploring the world of creativity in the automotive industry. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I heard you just came back from Japan.
Yeah,
right?
It was a really, really fun trip to Japan. I've actually been going for the last 2.5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to experience Tokyo Auto Salon 3 times now.
That's awesome.
Which has been really, really cool. And the whole thing that even really brought me to Japan was, as you know, the JDM fan culture is huge here in the U.S., especially here in California. And ever since I was a little kid, even though I didn't grow up in California, I grew up in Texas. But ever since I was a little kid, one of my dream cars, I have a lot of dream cars, but one of them was the R34 GTR. So 25 years after I found out what that car was, I finally had the opportunity, actually not 25, 22 years, 23 years after I found out what that car was, I had the opportunity to finally get one, got it in 2022. And after I bought it, I was like, you know what? I mean, I have to wait for, 16, 17, whatever months until it was legal to come here to the States. But I was like, why not try to experience the car in Japan? So I was like, I'm not going to be like everybody else who just buys it and waits forever and then imports it. I'm going to go to Japan. I'm going to experience the car there in Japan. I'm going to go to all the cool car meets, go to the underground meets. I'm going to track my car in Japan, Fuji Speedway, Suzuka Circuit, Scuba Circuit. I'm going to do all that and get the full Japanese experience so that when my car hits the States, it has a true story. Like not a story from its past owners, but a story that I created with it. So we did that. And man, in the last couple of years have been absolutely incredible. And now I just want to go to Japan like every year.
That's awesome. So when did you actually buy your R34? Because you owned an R32 as well, right?
I did. Yes, I sold it.
Okay.
I sold the R32 back in March of last year. But yeah, I purchased the R34 in August of 2022.
Okay.
The first time I actually got to see it in person was November of 2022. And then from there, I went to go see it for like I was there for like 10, 12 days or whatever, me and my friend Jay. So Jay, he's the one who actually even got me into like this crazy idea that we should go buy these cars in Japan and experience it. Actually, both of us bought identical cars in Japan. He bought his from Top Rank. I bought mine from Space Auto in Hamamatsu, Japan. Mm-hmm. And I wanted a different experience. I wanted to go to a Japanese dealership in Japan that no one's heard of really and get that full experience. And man, it's been amazing. But once we got it, we decided, hey, let's go together to Japan. So me and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and him and his wife, we all went to Japan. And it was just these 2 Sonic Silver 34 GTRs rolling together for a whole week, going to all the cool car shops, going to all these cool places, going to, car meets, Daikoku, doing everything that you could ever dream of. Like we did it in like 10 days.
That's awesome. So I gotta ask you, what'd you do to your car? Like after you bought it, was it stock? Was it already modified? What's on the car?
Yeah, so when I first bought it, it was stock, bone stock. I mean,
Okay.
Nothing done to this thing.
Right.
Some people say bone stock and they still have like exhaust and this. I'm talking about nothing. Like this thing basically came from the factory. And for me, what I did was I decided I needed to give it kind of that GTR look, right? So, I needed to have the side skirts, the front splitter, rear splats, kind of give it that normal, kind of make it a little bit more aggressive because the bone stock look, I mean, it's okay, but it's, it could be better. Did that. And then right after that, I was like, oh, I need to do exhaust because I don't want to keep this stock exhaust. Yeah. So I was like, what exhaust should I go to? And I remember one of my favorite cars in Gran Turismo 2 back in 1999 was a Mines R34 GTR.
Yeah.
So I was like, ooh, what if I get a Mines exhaust? So I was like, I'll get that. And then the dealership offered me this. They're like, hey, we can get it, but would you like to have it installed at Mines? I'm like, yeah, of course. I would love to go to that legendary shop. So went there and it was like my second or third day there. We had an appointment there. We went to Mines. And for me, it was like such a cool experience to be like, wow, I have my own R34 GTR here in Japan and I'm at Mines, like physically in Mines, and I'm watching these guys installed their parts on my car. Like it was just legendariness after legendary. Like it was just crazy. So and then after that, suspension, I did a HKS coilovers, which I have now switched on to an even better set of coilovers. Switched over to the JRZ RS Pro 3 active suspension. Okay. So now I have active suspension on the car, which is pretty incredible. It's allowing that car to do a lot of things. I can make it feel like a Cadillac Escalade, or I can make it feel like a full-blown race car, all with my phone on Bluetooth. Yeah. Really, really incredible suspension.
You should have had Minds do your computer too. No computer tuning?
So I thought about that, and I was like, no, because I know I'm eventually going to bring it here to the States, and I'm going to have it tuned for 91 octane. Yeah. So if I had that Minds computer, it was only going to be great for Japan and Japan only. Right. So, and it's not cheap. So I was like, why am I going to spend that money only just to take it right off and spend a lot more money on another ECU? So I didn't do that. But if the car was going to stay in Japan, yeah, for sure.
And are you going to eventually bring the car over here?
Well, it's here now.
Oh, it's here now.
Yeah, yeah. So I have it here. I brought it May of 2024, and now it's here. I actually just did a track day with it last weekend. Did a track day with it in December, and did my first track day in the States with it was at Laguna Seca, and I did that back in May of 2024. Actually, the car landed. I picked it up on Friday. Was tracking it that Sunday.
Wow. Okay. So you have a really, really interesting background. You started off doing track days, right? And then you somehow got into racing. Yeah. Can you tell us that story? I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. It is. So for me, my I guess trajectory into racing is a lot different than most drivers. So most drivers, they start racing when they're 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Go-karts, I don't know. Some people start even on like motocross stuff and do all that. So wherever they start, a lot of people start super young. When I was that age, we didn't have that kind of money or those kind of resources, or did I even know it was possible. I lived in Texas. The biggest thing in Texas was football. So I paid attention to football. I followed football, and I wanted to be.
You played football.
I played football. Yeah. So I told myself, hey, I had thoughts of, eventually maybe going to the NFL, but, obviously that's not, always possible for everyone. So I figured I'm just going to work as hard as I can and go to the highest level of football that I can. So through middle school, high school, worked really hard to get better and better and better at football. When I first started, I wasn't great, but I got better over time. And eventually I started getting recruited by a few schools. And one of those schools was the United States Naval Academy. For me, I looked at it as a really good opportunity to go to a great school, get a great education, play football for a great team. Yeah. And then when I graduate, be able to serve as an officer in the United States Navy. So I took that opportunity. I'm like, this is a win. And went to the Naval Academy, got there 2006. Played football there all 4 years, graduated 2010. We beat a lot of great teams. We had winning seasons every year, went to bowl games every year. Beat Army and Air Force every year. Beat Notre Dame twice. Almost even beat Ohio State once. So it was a really fun time. But once I graduated in 2010, my first big duty station was in San Diego. So that's what brought me out to California in 2010. And once I got out here, I had just recently bought a Dodge Challenger, and it was like right when the Challengers first came out, and it was an SRT8, making 425 horsepower. Immediately, I, did the basic bolt-ons, and then from there threw a cam in it. From there, he supercharged it. From there, went on deployment, and then started saving up a lot of money, and then spent all my money on that car, and then made it a 900 plus horsepower car. I was drag racing with it, doing half-mile competitions, doing mile competitions. I did 200.9 miles per hour in the mile, which made me like the third or fourth challenger ever to be able to hit 200 in a mile. That's impressive. And not blow up. Right. So, did that, and then came back from that, and then during that's 2013. During that time, I was like, man, it's fun going fast in a straight line, but I want to learn how to go fast around corners. So I decided, you know what, let me get a car that can actually turn and also be a more calm daily, since my Challenger was now a monster. Yeah. So I looked into the Corvettes, and I was like, oh, the C6 Z06 is a great platform. It can turn, it can go fast in a straight line, it can daily drive, it can do everything. So I was like, let me get one. So I picked one up. It was a 2006 C6 Z06. Picked it up in middle of 2013. Within a week of having it, I immediately went to, within 2 or 3 weeks of having it, actually, immediately went to the a road course track day. I think my first track day was at Auto Club Speedway. Oh, okay. Doing a Roval. Right. And then did that, and it was pretty fun, and then got me hooked. I'm like, man, I want to come back every few weeks to go do track days, and I kept on doing it, kept on working on it. And then after about 4 months of that, I wasn't saying like I was like, a master or great, but I was doing decent. I was getting faster always. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? Hey, like maybe if I keep getting better at this, what if I try to become a pro driver one day? So like people did say it was impossible, but I was too stubborn to believe it was possible. That's the thing. Right. Everyone in the world can tell you what's not possible, but like if you just believe no matter what that it is possible, then you can make it happen. So I believed it was possible no matter what anyone said. They're like, no, you're starting too late. You're like 25, 26 at that time. Like you're way too old to get into racing. I'm like, no, it's possible. I'm just going to do it. Like how? I don't know. I'm just going to do it. So immediately started researching racing and figuring out, okay, what does it take to get into racing?
Hey, thanks for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, whichever platform you're on, and leave some comments. We actually read every one of them, and it's actually great for the algo. All right, back to the show. Did you always follow racing when you were growing up, or this is completely new?
I did, but I wouldn't say I was, some super connoisseur on racing. Like I didn't I followed it a little bit. I liked it and I thought it was cool. And I thought it was something I could do. So I was like, I was done with football already. I was going to go to the NFL. Right. So I was like, hey, let me try this racing thing out.
Right.
So immediately figured out some of the different keys to getting into racing, right? Funding is a big thing, right?
Yes.
At the end of the day, you can be the best driver in the world. But man, if there's no funding, whether it's coming from you or someone else, then you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So I realized that. I also realized too that marketing is really big. You got to be able to present yourself in the right way. I realized that relationships and networking and all that stuff is super big. Being able to drive a race car, that's also important too. So when you start piecing it all together, I figured, okay, I got to learn how to do all this stuff if I want to find my way into racing. I know that me starting late, like I said, I was 25, 26 years old, whatever. I'm not going to be the best out the gate at all. Like there's people who have way more experience than me. But if I can just put all these things together, I can at least find my way in. And then once I'm in, I'm going to have some good days. I'm going to have some great days, and I'm going to have some terrible days. And I might have more terrible days than I do good days. But my goal is to just get into pro racing somehow, some way, be able to go in there and compete, and then hopefully just make the best of it. And as I started doing that, I found my way into the NASCAR world. One of my friends, he was working at the SRT Experience, and he introduced me to the stock car world because he was racing like late model stock cars. Mm-hmm. And I basically met him at a car show, and he was like, hey, you should look into stock car racing. And I was like, wait, like NASCAR stuff? I'm like, he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, like, what do I need to do? He's like, hey, I race for a late model team. Let's go set you up with a test with them, and then just see how you do. And if you do well, then maybe you can go down that route. I went and did the test, and I did all right for someone who's never driven like an actual race car. Right. And like I said, this was in May of 2014 when I did that test. I had decided to go down this racing route 4 months prior to that. So from the day I decided to when I actually got into a real race car was like 4 months, which is crazy. And then went on deployment, came back, and I was like, okay, I'm going to spend my every dollar, every bit of my energy, everything to go into racing. And then from there in 2015, I started my own business to make extra money on the side. Yeah. I started racing late model stock cars. I started to find sponsorship. I'm using my business money to pay for racing too. I'm doing everything I can to find, just did everything I could to get in, and started working my way up from late models to NASCAR K&N series, to the ARCA series, to NASCAR Truck series, and then now NASCAR Xfinity series over 5+ years.
All while you're being deployed and still doing your work.
Serving, yeah. So once I started actual racing real race cars, I had already been done with 2 of my deployments. I didn't have any more coming up. So I was going to shore duty and I had more free time, but I was still serving. I was still active duty. I mean, right. At any point, if, crap hit the fan, and they needed to send everybody somewhere, I'd be gone, yeah. So that was a real thing. But luckily nothing, we're good. So I got to race on the weekend. So basically I did my day job being in the Navy Monday through Friday. Friday evening, I'll fly out to wherever I was going to go race. Sunday, fly back. Monday morning, right back to work.
Wow. So do you think, so you were mentioning that like racing involves a lot of like different disciplines, right? Like mm-hmm. marketing and obviously knowing how to drive, but you need to kind of be able to like navigate other things than driving.
Yeah.
Do you think playing football at a really high level helped you sort of nurture those skills to be disciplined about like these things that you need to do?
I think football and being in the Navy Both of those together helped me. Playing football at a pretty high level in college, it was Division 1A football, which is the highest level of college football. I'm going and playing in front of crowds as little as 35,000 people to, Ohio State. When we played them, it was 110,000 people, 107,000 people when we played them. So I was used to being in big crowds. I mean, the crowds I was playing on every weekend was bigger than any crowd I've played or I've been in front of in NASCAR. So I'm already used to that, but I'm also already used to this regimented mentality of, okay, hey, I got to go through all my schoolwork and all the things I got to do in school during the day. I got to go do film for football. I have to do practice for football. And after that, get back to my schoolwork and then go to bed super late. So in a way, I'm working, from 7 a.m. till midnight every day. Like that was a thing in college, like every single day. So that now translated over to once I got into racing, because I still had my day job. But then after my day job, I had to work on my next job, which was racing. I had to send out 1 million emails trying to find sponsorship. I had to jump on my simulator, spend a couple hours every single night training. I had to do all the things I had to do, go find meetings, go find opportunities, go travel a lot. Like I had to do everything, and I was used to it. Like people say, oh man, when do you find time to sleep? I was like, in college, I found time to sleep when I was doing these, crazy, 17, 18 hour days. So why can't I do it now? I was already like just trained to do this.
Right. Man, that's so crazy though. I mean, how did you first find the sponsors to fund all this stuff?
Yeah, so it's tough. So one thing I'll tell people getting into racing is do not expect to have sponsorship to start. Like a lot of people want to build a car or do this or do whatever, and they just think someone's sitting out there waiting to just pay for it. Nobody cares about your dream. Nobody cares about your dream. Nobody cares about what you're trying to do at all. You have to believe in yourself and you have to care about it. It's just like any business or any company in this world. Like no one's investing in you until you invest in yourself. And then once you put that skin in the game, then they're like, okay, if you're willing to put your own skin in the game, I'll put my skin in the game too. But if you don't put your skin in the game, no one's doing anything for you. Why do you think you're going to wake up and someone's be like, yeah, someone's just going to pay for my car bill. Someone's just going to pay for my my racing or whatever. And I even haven't done anything yet. Like, no. Like people will start doing it after you've done so because they see that you're willing to put in the work. They see that you're able to produce some type of product. But if you haven't proven it yet, no one's trying to do it for you. So for me, once I realized that, I was like, let me put my own skin in the game. So that's why I started my own business. When I started my own business, my first business was hosting drag racing events. So, and I still do it today. Okay. We've been putting on events every single year at Famoso Drag Strip in Bakersfield, California, since 2015. But I put on those events so I could, for a few reasons. One, I saw that the street racing pandemic was kind of growing bigger and bigger, and people were getting hurt, people were getting killed. I mean, in this just a month or two prior to my first event, one of the guys that I invited to my event to come to my event actually was involved in an accident in a street racing thing, and someone got killed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So actually he wasn't, but his car was. Anyways, either or, it's still surrounding the whole thing, right? So I wanted to put on events for people to come to so they could have a safe place to go race. I wanted a great place for spectators to come and watch amazing vehicles go drag racing that they see on the internet all the time. And then on top of it, I was like, if it all goes well and people like it, hopefully I make $1. So any dollars I did make, I would just kind of pour back into what I was doing in my motorsports world. And then from there, that business grew to more. I eventually started a trucking business where I have semi trucks running on the road. I got into real estate investing. I do a little bit of government contracting. I have an esports company as well, e-racing association. I'm a film production company too as well. We film all over the country. In fact, we just got back from filming something at the 24 Hours of Daytona.
Oh,
so
nice. Yeah.
I'm all over the place, have a lot of different business ventures. None of them have become like, Facebook or like, I don't know, Tesla or whatever, but they're all growing at their pace, and they have ups and downs, and I'm just trying to make life work. But I had to basically make my own money first before I could even ask for sponsorship. And then I had to start going for sponsorship. And when I did, I was very fortunate. In June of 2015, I had pretty much ran out of money, right? Like my business was still kind of working its way up, so I hadn't made enough money yet, but I had ran out of money to pay for my racing. And I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? And then I just got to networking, and one connection led me to another connection through my Naval Academy network of friends. And I got connected to a very wealthy family who owns a huge engineering firm. And one of the guys was able to help me out and had my rest of my year sponsored in 2015. So that was my first big sponsor. It was like a $45,000 sponsorship, which isn't a lot towards what I do now, but like back then it was a lot. It's like a lot of races. So yeah, that's how I kind of got the sponsorship thing going.
And you're still in the reserve, right? Is that how you call it, right?
Yes.
So what do you do in the military?
Yeah. So in the military, I'm a surface warfare officer.
Mm-hmm.
As a SWO, we operate the ships. But now that I'm in the reserves, I'm not doing as much ship stuff because as a SWO, you can't really, as a reservist in the SWO world, you can't really do much. Mm-hmm. So I've moved on to more amphibious life, which is on land.
Okay.
So I'm now with Amphibious Construction Battalion 1, ACB 1. We're based out of Coronado. And what we do is basically ship to shore operations. So for example, if there's a conflict in whatever country and we need to get all of our equipment from the ships all the way onto their shores, we are basically in charge of that kind of whole operation there, us and the whole Naval Beach Group enterprise. We get ships out there, all the equipment's loaded on these ships, and we get that stuff offloaded to the shore, which is a whole beast of an operations logistically, because you get to a shore, it's not like they just have a pier just sitting right there for you. They're not like, hey, I know you're attacking us, but here's a pier, use it. No. If there was a pier, they'll probably destroy it before you get there. Or it'll get destroyed before you get there. So then from there, you sometimes we got to build our own pier. Like imagine showing up to a beach, like right here, off of Coast California, and we build a pier within like a few days. And now we have a massive pier where we can offload tanks, Humvees, MTVRs, everything you can think of, like boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
Wow. Do you do any driving with your driving experience?
In the Navy? No, they don't let officers drive that much. They don't think we know what we're doing. So they don't let us drive. Other people will drive us.
So how did you manage? Well, you are still managing, I guess, like being a NASCAR driver, a military officer, and CEO of many ventures that you just mentioned. I mean, how do you manage all of this? Like, what's the percentage of time that you dedicate to all of these ventures that you have?
It's tough. With everything I have going on, unfortunately, I can't put time towards each one every day. I pick a certain group of them, like saying, okay, these are the highest priority tasks right now that need to be completed between all the businesses and things I'm doing. And then I just work on those. And some days it's only in one company. Some days it's in 3 of them. Right now we're going into the beginning of tax season. We got 1099s, different things. So, I got to work on that, figure out, okay, who did we pay all last year and this and that, and make sure we have all this stuff right. Make sure it gets out to the right people. This is so many different things. Every company demands certain bits of time and efforts, and some random things pop up, and all of a sudden now that's a new high priority. Like this, like I said, with the film production company, we shot something at the 24 Hours of Daytona for a team. Well, that was a very last second deal. I mean, it just came up in the last few weeks. So we weren't really expecting that. So then all of a sudden, boom, a lot of high priority, get this done, everything like right then, even though I was working on other things. So whatever, between all the businesses, all the ventures I'm doing, there's a list of to-do list. There's a huge to-do list. Whatever the highest priority stuff is, I just start working my way down. And as long as you're putting that effort every single day and you're not wasting too much time, you'll get to everything and everything will stay afloat. And sometimes it takes staying up a little bit later.
Yeah. So the film production stuff that you did at Daytona. So last weekend was Daytona, 24 Hours of Daytona. And you shot for a team. What was the production about? Yeah.
So it was for a team, one of the AMG teams out there.
Okay.
And they're the only privately owned team. So they're a privateer. The fellow who owns the thing has done really well in the business world. And they're just looking to kind of, I guess, expand their audience of people seeing what they're doing, and hopefully it leads towards potential opportunities with maybe even new sponsors, new drivers maybe coming to the team. Who knows? But for us, we wanted to kind of tell their story, because their story, I think, is super powerful as far as being one of the only privateer teams out there. A lot of the other teams are very much backed by big manufacturers or are manufacturer teams. So it's very difficult to break into that world, not only break in, but do well too. So they ran really well this past weekend. So it's cool kind of filming that. We filmed other things for other groups in all other kinds of racing, and we do more than just racing. I mean, we film stuff for even Golden Corral. So we're all over the place. Whatever needs to be filmed, we can film.
Cool. Have you ever been interested in doing IMSA or any kind of like sports car racing?
Yeah, I think IMSA is super cool. To me, it's the most relatable motorsports out there. The cars that race, at least in the GTD, GTD Pro, and then obviously in WEC, I forget what their series. I think it's GTE, maybe, I can't remember. But whichever one's the Corvettes and all those things, Mustangs, whatever,
right.
running. I think that's the most relatable racing out of all, right? F1 cars, you don't drive F1 cars on the street. Even in NASCAR, like we don't drive those kind of cars on the street.
Right.
But in IMSA, we do drive those cars. Like the C8 Z06 GT3R is a lot of the components on that car come from the street car. The engine is 70% the same engine. So, we drive those cars in the street, so it's relatable. I think it's cool. It's beautiful seeing all those different kinds of vehicles. They're not all this spec vehicle. Like you got the Porsches, the Mustangs, the Corvettes, the Mercedes, the McLarens. It's just cool seeing them all on track, battling it out. I wish it was more popular. I wish more people were watching it and paying attention to it. But maybe you'll get there one day.
Yeah. Do you see yourself driving one of those cars?
Yeah, if the opportunity came up, I would love to. I would absolutely love to.
So you're in the Xfinity series right now?
Yeah, NASCAR Xfinity series.
What was the biggest challenge you've ever faced since driving NASCAR?
You know what? The
NASCAR.
biggest challenge is just trying to pick yourself up after a bad day. And when I say bad day, the worst days are when you wreck, right? So I've been involved in wrecks, right? They happen. Some my fault, some not my fault, but they happen. And trying to pick yourself up from that, because unfortunately, the internet can be very, very mean, and people will come down on you saying this about you, saying that. And it's, sometimes you see that stuff, you're like, what the heck? Like, these people don't know I'm like trying and I'm working hard. And sometimes you don't understand what led to it. Like, yeah, like there could be a situation where I spun out and then hit the wall, but they don't realize that the setup on the car was like horrendous that day. And like, I was doing my best to even just maintain. I should have wrecked in the first lap, but I wrecked finally like 100 laps into it. So many things, so many factors that come into play. Also, too, just with like barely having any practice now for NASCAR. We have most of the races are 120 or 25-minute practice. That's it. We don't have 2 1-hour practices like every other racing series out there. So not getting any practice, showing up and just having to go, it's tough. So you're just trying to bounce back from that kind of stuff. That's probably the toughest part. And then, learning how to just stay mentally strong, not letting it affect their performance the next time out, because you don't want to be timid the next time out, being like, okay, let me be timid so I don't have an issue, because then you just go slower. So you got to still be able to go out there, be aggressive, run hard, run as fast as you can, run as fast as the car will allow you to as well. Not every car is built the same. Just because we all look the same out there doesn't mean every car is the same. Like some cars will be able to go 188 miles per hour, and some of them will only be able to go 185 miles per hour. That's it. So you'll never win like that, but you just do the best you can, and you'll finish the best that is the best that you can for that day.
Yeah, yeah. Is it your family's from Nigeria?
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like being, one of the few black racers in NASCAR?
Yeah, there's not that many. Me, obviously I race part-time. I don't race every race. Bubba Wallace races in the Cup Series full-time. Raja Karuth races full-time in the NASCAR Truck Series and a little bit in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. LeVar Scott races full-time in ARCA, and I believe he'll probably race in truck races maybe this year. I'm not sure. And then there's a few others. Armani Williams races part-time NASCAR trucks. I think he's run a little bit of Xfinity too as well. And then there might be a couple folks that I'm forgetting right now. Blake Lothian and a few others. So Brad Perez too as well. So all these folks are African-American descent or mixed or whatever, and they all race in NASCAR. So, but it's still, there's more now than there was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But there's still not that many compared to, everybody else. So even females too as well. I mean, we barely have any. I think full-time. Do we have any I don't even know if we have any full-time in any of the national series right now. I don't believe we have any full-time females, just part-time. They race just a little bit. So it's crazy. And this is like going to be, I think this upcoming year is going to be the first year that we don't have a full time because Haley Deegan, I believe, is now doing IndyCar stuff. So yeah, diversity still needs to happen. Not saying that people just need to be just given an opportunity just because they're, of a diverse background. But I think we still need to continue to find ways to help people who are good at driving, who can, and good at all the other things that come in racing, because it can't just be only one thing. You got to be good at it all. And then, find ways to help them get into it, right? It's just funding, Yeah. If you find the right funding, then they can get up there.
Do you think that's the major hurdle there? I mean,
I think the biggest hurdle is funding. It's not that teams don't want to let them drive. People will let you drive, especially if you got funding. You walk in with the right funding, you got it. That's your seat right there. Let us know. But it's a funding part. It's just tough to find money, especially in the economy the last few years too. It's really tough. 20 years ago, it was very easy. Most teams, a company would call them to try to sponsor them, and they'd be like, I'll let you know when I'm ready to take your sponsorship. Right. Now it's different because people can spend money in other ways. Company X can come in and be like, you know what? Yeah, it could spend money in sponsorship in NASCAR, or it could spend money on Facebook ads or, YouTube ads or Google ads or whatever, or sponsor some whatever event, some festival or something. So you're competing against so many other things and just trying to find your way in.
Yeah. How were you able to market yourself in your racing activities? So what do you think you did differently?
For me, I didn't really necessarily focus too much on me being African-American or something like that, because I knew there was others, right? Even though there wasn't a lot, there were still others. But what I focused on was me being military, because I was only one. I was one of one. Yeah. Now there's other military folks working their way into racing. But, especially my first few years starting, I was the only military guy who was still serving and also competing in NASCAR. So that was my angle right there, being Captain America or whatever, and I knew that I was going to inspire other military folks to go after their goals and dreams, whether it was in racing, the business world, or whatever they're doing. By me being someone who's still serving and racing and being able to balance all that stuff and my businesses, that showed other people that what they were doing, whatever they were working on, was possible. Yeah. If he can go do a million things, I can do my at least one or two things. Right. And that was my whole plan. And it worked. I inspired a lot of people. A lot of people have achieved their goals and dreams. I've helped a lot of people achieve their goals and dreams, and I continue to help people. I mean, just, a day or two ago, I was sending emails to a couple different people who were wanting to get themselves into whatever they're doing, and I sent them a lot of advice. So I'm a huge believer. You help other people achieve their dreams, your dreams will come true too.
What did the Navy think of you racing on the weekends?
They were supportive. My command that I was at was super supportive. They allowed me to do what I needed to do. There were some times where I needed to take some leave to do stuff during the week, and they allowed me to do it because I think the Navy looked at it as, we have a ton of officers already. Why would we not want to let this one guy go do all these things? He's a great representative showcasing what a naval officer and just naval personnel period can do. If you take that away from me, then you're just continuing to show the world that in the Navy, you can only do the Navy and that's it. But how's that going to be attractive to some kid who's coming up being like, wait, you're saying that if I join the Navy, I can't do anything else in life? Who wants to join that kind of military, right? You want to join a military where you go serve, you go protect our country, but you also know that you can also do things outside the military too as well to continue to go after your goals and dreams, because we can all only do the military for so long. We can do it from as early as 18, maybe 17 to, I forget what the cutoff age is, but that's it. You can't do it forever. Right. And they will boot you out after a certain point. So I think I've been able to showcase what a naval officer is capable of. And I've been doing it.
That's awesome. That's very open-minded, right? You've never pitched your racing program to them to sponsor you or anything like that?
We pitched it to the Navy quite a few times. Yeah. Unfortunately, also how the Navy works as far as the marketing side, there's an actual marketing company that does the marketing for the Navy. It's not just the Navy. And they're the ones who make the decisions. They have a huge contract. I mean, when I looked at it last, because it's publicly, it was posted publicly somewhere, it's over $400 million or so for 5 or 6 years, something like that. And they're just spending it on whatever they're spending it on. I mean, recruiting's down right now, so yeah. I don't know what they're spending it on. But yeah,
I've
we've
seen,
offered to help. I mean,
yeah.
I figure I have recruited plenty of people into the military. Like, how many people reach out to me to be like, hey, I want to join the military, and they've been following me. Like, they love everything I'm doing. Not that they want to become race car drivers, but they're like, hey, you're a guy doing a lot. So man, if you can do all that and balance in the military, you look like someone that could give me advice on how to navigate. So I've gotten plenty of people in. I could do more if we just had more resources to do it, but I can't go spend all my time trying to recruit people in if, the marketing side of the Navy isn't helping to make that happen.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen like at Formula Drift, like the Air Force, and
Air Force
think
is very
the Army,
yeah.
like they're doing like pull up, things at
Army
Formula
might have
Drift
a little bit there, but Air Force for sure.
Right.
Army is part of some other things, and I think Army and Air Force do a great job of getting into sports because that's where people are, and if you want people to come into the military who are active people, right? People who aren't just sitting on their butt, at home and that's it. Like, you need to get out to where active people are. Active people get up and get out. They go to these sporting events. They go try to compete in these sport events. They go watch it because they want to be like that. Right. So go get those people. They're smart. They're good with their hands. They might be athletic, depending on what sports obviously you're going after. But these people are the ones you want. So the Air Force, I think, and the Army do a great job of getting out and doing that. And that's why I think all the military's recruiting numbers might be down right now, but I think the Air Force and Army are doing it right. So, and they track it well.
Yeah. And you're mentioning, the cost of, developing as a driver, and sim racing is something that you've really, really embraced, right? How has that helped you throughout your career so far?
Yeah. So being a sim racer has been super helpful because, like I said, in practice-wise in NASCAR, we don't have opportunities to practice much. We get 20, 25 minutes to practice. A few, 2 or 3 races, we might get an hour, but it's like one practice versus F1. I don't know how many practices they get, but it's more than us. They get to test in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
They do all this stuff. So sim racing is what we all have to resort to kind of get our practice in, and then from there we got to find a way to translate it. Fortunately, sim racing has gotten so much better over the years. iRacing does a really great job. Assetto Corsa is a very open world, not open world, but open source, whatever you want to call it, where people can jump in and do their own edits and make it feel the way they want it to feel. Right. And then even just the console games too, they've gotten a lot better. Forza, all these consoles are continuing to do things to develop.
Gran Turismo,
all that stuff. Yeah. And there's other games too. I think iRacing is coming out with a new NASCAR game on the console, so that's going to be interesting. F1, I forget who makes the F1 game, but all those games.
It's a UK company.
Yeah, somebody.
Codemasters.
Yeah. So all these games are getting better and better and better. All these sims are getting better and better and better. And it's something now where it's affordable, where you can buy your own sim. You don't have to buy a $50,000, $100,000 sim. If you have the money, do it. But if you don't, there's ways to get into it for $500-$600 or so, $1,000, $2,000. My setup at home, probably $10K or so. But that's what I like, and it's good. I didn't want to spend much more than that because I figured my next step of what I would really want would most likely end up being like a 40, 50 grand type rig.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like there is no in between for what I want. There isn't like, you can get a 20K. No, it wouldn't work.
But your setup is still like you've got the seat, right? You got the screen, and you're not like on a joystick.
Yeah, not on a joystick. Yeah. So I have Fanatec DD2. And the hydraulic pedals. I have a track racer chassis, the TR8, which is sturdy and great. No issues with that. The screen I have is a Samsung G9, if I'm not mistaken, Odyssey G9. It's the widescreen one. And then I have a Oculus Rift as well, old one. I do have a Quest.
Oh, you're a VR guy.
Yeah, I like the VRs, but I use the VR only to do drifting on Assetto Corsa. But then I use the screen for all my iRacing and sports car stuff.
Why do you use it for drifting? Because you got to look sideways?
Exactly. Yeah, so when you try to drift with a normal screen, it is terrible.
You run out of space.
It's terrible. Like, it's not good because it's not realistic. Like in a car, the way your brain works when you're drifting, each time you throw it in a corner, like just how my head is right here, this is what happens. My body's moving, but my head needs to stay here. So when I come back here, I need to do that. When you have the screen, that doesn't do that. Yeah. So then and then when it does try to simulate it, it doesn't simulate it realistically. Yeah. So you have to have the VR. So like when I throw it in, I'm here. Like you just got to be able to do that, or else it just throws off your your I don't know, your equilibrium,
Yeah,
whatever
I
it
get
is.
sick
Yeah.
using those VR, headsets. It's and I know a lot of people that just can't do them at all.
Yeah,
I can do a couple laps and spend like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I know people that like try it on for 5 minutes and they're like, completely like
I could be in there like 2 hours.
Really? Oh my God. Yeah.
I've been fortunate that motion sickness has not affected me. Obviously, being in the Navy.
Yeah. That wouldn't work if you're out at sea and you got sick all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Wow. And so JDM, like, where did that love develop, though? I mean, you've been driving domestics and you're in NASCAR.
Yeah.
Like, why? How did
Yeah.
how did the JDM community and tuning all fit in?
So yeah, like you said, I've always been a huge American car person, right? Domestic, and I still am.
Yeah.
I have more Corvettes than I do JDM, so I only have one JDM car, but I have 3 Corvettes, C8 Z06, C8 E-Ray. Both of them are matching VINs, VIN 34, and then C6 Z06, which is my drift car now, and then which has 224,000 miles on it, by the way. Yeah, stock bottom end, original bottom end, like. I just can't name a lot of cars that can do that. And then I have my R34 GTR. Now I'm in love with all the JDM legend cars, right? Not all JDM cars, just the legendary ones. No front wheel drive stuff though. That's not me.
Okay.
But I can do all wheel drive and rear wheel drive. So R34 GTRs, 33, 32, 35. NSX, S2000s are cool.
S chassis.
Yes, yeah, S15. I just drove that for 10 days in Japan. All those cars, Evos,
WRX.
Yeah, WRX. Yeah, to an extent. I'm not a fan of the motors, but all good. But yeah, all that stuff is stuff that I'm super interested in. But obviously, my huge love is the R34 GTR. So yeah, like I said, it was getting into it from the video game perspective. I mean, if you think about it, from 1999 to 2003, you had Gran Turismo 2, Need for Speed Underground, Need for Speed Underground 2, and Too Fast, Too Furious all came out in that 4-year period. Yeah. And that just crazy hyped up the JDM world. Yeah. And then obviously the Fast and the Furious too, the first one. But all those movies, video games, all that stuff together made the Skyline world just like become super popular, because for many people that was our first introduction to those cars. Yeah. Now, not saying for all people, some people watch the old option videos and things like that, but for most of the normal world, we didn't see it until, Gran Turismo 2. Yeah. And then we didn't see them again really till, the underground Need for Speed games and Too Fast, Too Furious. So all that is really what kind of built my passion for JDM cars. And then I always knew at some point I would get the one that I always wanted, which was the R34 GTR. And yeah, 20 something years later, finally did.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when you were back in Japan, when you were in Japan, I'm Japanese, so when I say back in Japan,
back home.
How was it? How was like Daikoku and like Tokyo Auto Salon? How's that JDM community for you though?
So Japan is really cool. I will always say that the Japanese car culture, Japanese car community overall is smaller than the US. We're just bigger just because of numbers, but it's just cooler, right? Usually the cars are just so much nicer, better taken care of, and the builds are just so clean, very meticulous, and people take pride in their cars. When you go to Daikoku, most of the cars showing up, like there's still going to be your 1 or 2 little crap boxes or whatever that show up. But for the most part, most of them are very clean, very nice. Like people, when they show up, they want to know, hey, my car is like beautiful. It's like crazy clean. The build is really nice. Like people show up with very quality stuff. And just being able to go to Daikoku, which is like, for those who don't know, Daikoku is, it is a rest area, right? So it's meant to be a truck stop and a rest area where you can pull in, park your car, and then take a nap, maybe grab some snacks from the convenience store. I think there's Lawson's right there, and then just take a nap and chill. But for whatever reason, years ago, it became this spot where, car enthusiasts could just come and just meet at night. So like the only way to get there is by taking that little Yokohama exit right there, and you spiral all the way down into Daikoku, and then when you leave, you get back on the highways and you roll. So it's cool being down there because there's a lot of cool cars there. But then like when another cool one's showing up, when like that V12 Lamborghini is showing up, because you hear it spiraling down like. and you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be sick. Comes in, and then you're this little downhill slope coming in, downshift, and you're like, oh yeah, this is sick. And then when they leave, you can just hear them just boom, 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 boom. So yeah, it's a really cool experience going to stuff like that. And then Tokyo Auto Salon now. I really believe Tokyo Auto Salon is now becoming almost a Tokyo Auto Salon week. So like you can almost call it now Car Week.
Yeah.
They should, because now there's a lot more meets happening. Before it was like, maybe one big meet, but now it's like each night throughout that weekend is like some big meet or whatever, some underground meet, and everybody's trying to do this underground thing now. Even though a lot of them are overground, but it's cool to see that people are really kind of putting this attention towards it. More foreigners are coming in. Yeah. Some people like it, some people don't. I think it's cool. It's cool that other people from outside the country are coming in to see your culture there. Like that's cool. People are flying from all over the world, the U.S., Europe, Australia, wherever. They're coming in for all these countries just to be part of that weekend, just for a few days.
It's taken over the motor show, I believe.
The
Tokyo Mobility Show. I mean, yeah, it's still great, but like Tokyo Auto Salon is where it's at.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's when everybody flies in and they do enjoy Japan.
They're doing all the car stuff. Yeah. So like even for me, especially when I had my R34 there for 2 of those auto salons, it was cool because you roll around and people were like, you're like a king, because you have an R34 GTR. And most people who are flying in, they don't have a car there. So like they're just there as a spectator. So they're there to see you. Like, whereas if you come to a show here in the US, usually people are coming to the show have a car that they're bringing. So they're worried about their car and themselves. Yeah. They're flying in, they don't have their car. So now they're just seeing you. So if you have a car, like you're the one. So it was a really cool experience. And everything you could dream of like this, let's say, that first scene in Tokyo Drift where they go to that underground drift event or whatever, like that's what it is, now minus the crazy music and these girls dancing around, that's not there. But everything else is still the same feel.
Yeah. So the cool thing about Daikoku is that, here you see a lot of photos and videos of all the JDM tuner cars. But like you were saying, there's everything there, right? So there's like European exotics. You see like lowriders there sometimes.
Lowriders, which is becoming a bigger thing.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because they dress like super LA, and like super like Hispanic. Like they got the
Japanese guys with braids.
Yeah. And they got like the the Dodger stuff on, and like just exactly like a lowrider guy would be here.
Yeah.
Like they same feel, and like you wouldn't even know because you look at them and they look like they're Hispanic. Like, hey, are you Japanese?
They go all out in Japan.
We go all.
Yeah, and then you have like the Bosozoku guys too. Have you ever seen the motorcycle guys?
I've seen them. It's a little annoying, but I've seen them.
Yeah.
They have the cars too. They're not just the motorcycles, but Bosozoku. They're the guys who run around with the very thin exhaust, but they're just revving their motorcycles and their cars up like crazy, like but it doesn't even sound like that. It's like
do you know they have those meets where they go and compete?
Who
the best like rever is?
How do you find who's the best? Because none of it sounds good.
No, so they have these meets in Japan, right? So where they all gather, and they have judges, and you know how they do the so there's like this cadence, this rhythm to it, like they go so
I didn't even know. I just thought it was just random.
No, look it up on YouTube because there's like these guys that compete, and the best guy that can do the best revving,
you have the best rhythm in the annoying revving. Gotcha.
And they actually have judges who judge them, and like you win. Like it's not even about the looks of your car, how well it's built. It's about how well you can rev it.
Yeah. Interesting. There was I've seen them a few times. Usually once they start doing their thing, the meet's going to get shut down pretty soon.
No, it gets. I mean, for a normal person, trying to enjoy a car meet, it could be annoying, when you have guys like revving out of their bikes.
But I mean, the cool thing, that's their thing.
Their
they
culture
do it.
Too.
That's it. Listen, there's multiple things you can be part of that. You can be part of the vans. They got the little minivan culture there. In the old ones and the new ones.
The van culture is big. We saw a van with an R35 engine in it once. And
wow. You even make that work. That's crazy. Yeah. And then the K cars too as well. There's so many different things you can do. I mean,
K cars are blowing up in Japan too.
Oh yeah.
They have those tours that, they take in the K cars.
Yeah. Then people are bringing them here now too.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So tell us about your esports league.
Yeah.
I saw you at PRI.
Yep.
And you had an exhibit, and you recently launched your league, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, well, yeah, we've had the league since 2020.
Okay.
Or late 2020, right? So our whole thing was during the pandemic, we realized that, hey, at any point, if there's some global shutdown in the world, real life sports stop, right? But what doesn't stop is esports. We saw gaming all across the board boost like crazy in 2020, 2021. And we realized, hey, this is something you can do no matter what. And it doesn't cost a lot of money to go do it. You know, like real life racing costs hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. Sim racing at your home can to a few thousand maybe, and then that's it. So we figured, hey, more people can do this than they can real life racing. Why don't we create a league where we make people feel like a pro? We give away prize money. You know, we're doing like $5,000 cash prizes for our iRacing events. We broadcast the events too, just like a real broadcasted race. We have commentators, we have real broadcast graphics, everything going. Like it looks like a real life professional race. We wanted to give an opportunity for people to be at home, compete in an event that makes them feel like a pro. They're like on TV and broadcast it on iRacing's platforms. And then we're giving out cash prizes. So at the end, you win the race, you get $4,000. You get second place, you get $500 and so on. So this is real cash prizes. Imagine winning a race at home. You spend a couple hours in one night, and then you win a race and you get $4,000. Like you can use that to do a lot of stuff. Yeah. If you want to get into real life racing, it might pay for a little bit of racing. So that's why we created it. And then we've been running it since 2020. It's been really great. We've been expanding it out. We just recently started doing Forza events too as well. So we did 2 Forza events at the end of 2024. We plan on doing some more in 2025. We had, I forget how much it was, like 13 to 15,000 people tried to qualify into our Forza event. Wow, yeah, okay. For only 20 spots. Yeah, so unfortunately only 20 people can get in, but still it was cool that many people tried. Yeah. And we just look to hopefully expand this out. And we'd love to, in a way, kind of be like the NASCAR in the sim racing world.
And where are you broadcasting this?
So for the iRacing events, they're broadcasted on iRacing's platforms and on our social media platforms too as well. So people follow eRacing Association on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, you can see our stuff. And if you follow iRacing as well on all those platforms, you can see our stuff as well. We do 4 big events a year. Our next one's coming up next week. People can just go onto our website, www.eragaming.gg, sign up at any time. And then the Forza events, we broadcast them on our own platforms, but also on Forza's too as well. So those will be coming out here pretty soon as well, where people can see our last event that we did.
Nice. And real broadcasting means you have like commentators and analysts.
Commentated everything. Yeah. So I remember we even had one time where we had a guy doing the pit road report, and then we had like, yeah.
How do you do that?
So we had pit guns going off in the background, so like it sounded like he was on pit road. But yeah, like we do what we can, when he gives a report during the pit stop, saying, hey, these people are taking tires, fuel, and so on. So nice. Yeah, we try to make it seem as real as possible. Like it's pretty cool.
Great. And you have obviously sponsors because you're giving out cash prizes, right?
Yeah. So we've had different sponsors throughout the years. We're trying to gain more. And yeah, those sponsors who come on board, I mean, you have the opportunity to be part of a real race, because it is a real race. These are real people competing. Yeah. We even have these, we call our in-car cams, right? So like in real racing, you have, in onboard cam looking at the driver. Well, all these drivers have their webcam on. So you're looking at them at home. Oh, okay. And like they're not competing on a controller unless it's Forza, but on iRacing, they're using this camera. So these guys are focused in. So you got their camera looking at them, you're seeing them focused in, driving, doing all that stuff. If they get in the wreck, they're like, getting all crazy.
You got the cat and the dog in the background.
Yeah, cat, dog, mom, dad, little brother, sister. But it's cool to kind of see these onboard cams with these drivers. Some of them, like one of them, sometimes even has it on his forehead. He has like GoPro going, and he's streaming from there. So you're watching the screen, you're seeing what he's doing. It's like really animated. But yeah, it's a super cool thing that we're building out, and we're hoping to grow this thing. We want to get to a point where we have thousands of members who compete, because you have to be a member of our league to compete. So it is a paid membership. It's like $40 a year, but you're $140 a year fee, you could go win potentially $16,000 if you won every single event. So I think that pays for itself.
So at the end of the year, do you have like a series championship or something like that?
Not yet. We're thinking about doing something like that, but right now it's just more of just each event.
Okay.
You know, you go win the event, you win the event. So one-offs 4 times a year.
I see.
Yeah.
Cool. So going back to your real racing, you have your own team now, right?
Yes.
Jesse Iwuji
Jesse Iwuji Motorsports.
Yep. Tell us about that. I mean, where are your goals at in terms of your NASCAR and racing aspirations?
Yeah. So our NASCAR team, we started it in 2020. 2021 is when we announced it. 2022 was the first year we actually competed with it. And yeah, it's been a crazy journey the whole time. When we started, we were like, okay, how are we going to make this happen? We were able to luckily secure some decent sponsorship for the 2022 year. Chevrolet was one of our big partners. Coca-Cola was one of our partners. And we had some other smaller companies too as well. We had a mortgage company as well that jumped on board. Towards the end of 2022, unfortunately, one of those companies did not continue to pay, and we're like, now it just screwed us up. Yeah. Really bad. And if you want to look into that, you can just go on the internet. Very easy to find.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, that put us in a very bad bind. So unfortunately, in 2023 and 2024, we've just been running part-time seasons as we've continued to kind of fight that battle to kind of figure out where everything is going to fall out. But fortunately for us, Coca-Cola was always super supportive still. Chevrolet was also super supportive. They still, Chevrolet is still our partner. They've been working with us the last couple of years, which has been awesome. They didn't just let us die. They're like, hey, we're going to keep being here for, we know y'all took a huge punch at the end of 2022 with what happened. And they've just been with us, which has been great. That's why, I've always been a big Chevy supporter, even before they were a partner for us. But even like when they stayed with us through what we were going through, that just made me even more of a bigger Chevy supporter.
Vets too. So.
Yeah. So I'm spending my money with Chevy. So, I'm not just taking, I'm giving back a lot.
Right.
So, that's been great. But yeah, we're looking forward to this year, 2025. We're working on some stuff that hopefully gets us to track a lot more. So, we're in the middle of finalizing that stuff, and hopefully it all happens, and hopefully you'll see, our team in some way, fashion or form back at the track a lot more this year. So
yeah, that's great.
We're working on it, but yeah, it's just a grind. Anytime you get into just becoming a driver is tough. Starting your own team is even tougher. I look back, I'm like, man, it could have been easier if I just been a driver and driver only. But I did jump into the ownership world. And fortunately, I have great partners too as well. Matt Casto, Emmett Smith, Hall of Fame great from the Dallas Cowboys. He's one of our co-owners as well. Mike Antonucci. We have a great group of people who've been super supportive, and they've all been working hard. Matt's been busting his butt trying to make a lot of stuff happen, especially, like I said, once we took that huge, blow to the head and the chin and the stomach and everything at the end of 2022, we're working on, bouncing back from all that stuff. So, yeah.
With Emmett Smith on board, he's a Texas guy as well. Obviously you're a football player. So how did that happen?
Yeah. So Matt has a great relationship with Emmett, for longer than I've ever known Emmett. And he's the one who made that connection. When we were starting a team, we're like, hey, Matt was like, hey, we can start this thing together, or we can bring in someone who's also, a huge, great figure in the world of sports. And we thought of Emmett, and we're like, let's bring in Emmett. I think it would be awesome to have someone from the NFL who was like, part of this whole thing. And we did. Emmett was on board. He was like, hey, let's make this happen. And yeah, he's come to a lot of races. We have meetings regularly with him, and he's a crazy busy person. He's working on a million things himself.
Right.
Yeah. Once he retired from football, he didn't retire from life. He got very busy in the business world, real estate stuff. He does speaking engagements all the time. The guy, every time we, rarely when we hop in a meeting is he actually at home. He's usually he's in the airport, boarding a flight. He's, all the time, but he still makes time for us, which is awesome. Yeah. Especially someone like that, who's still to this day leading rusher in the NFL.
Yeah. That's incredible. I see a lot of former players investing in teams now.
Yeah.
I think that's a trend that's going to continue to
Michael
grow.
Jordan.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So where can folks find you and follow you? Where's the best place? I mean, you're doing so many different things, and you're entrepreneur, a race car driver. How do people follow you?
I'm on all the social media platforms. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, LinkedIn. I don't know if TikTok's still a thing. I keep on. It
went down for a hot minute and then came back up again.
Yeah. So I'm on there too. But honestly, people just reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Probably the easiest places to get to me. Just shoot me a DM. I check my messages regularly. But my name is what it is on there. So Jesse Iwuji, JESSE_IWUJI. I don't have any fake names or weird names. I'm not like, I don't know, whatever people make up random names. I make myself easy to find digitally.
Awesome. We ask all of our guests this last question. Jesse, what is your creative drive?
My creative drive, there's so much that pushes me. I like to say I'm a grown adult. I'm 37 now, 37, grown adult, but I have the creative mind of a kid, and I try to maintain that because what I've learned in life is as we grow up, grow older, there's this thing that makes us almost want to tame ourselves, and we put ourselves in boxes. And I hate that. Like, we need to always make sure that we maintain this open mindset so we can see everything and continue to believe that things are possible. Like when you're a kid, you think you can fly. You think you can do all this stuff. It's not until some, grown up says, oh no, you can't do this. You can't. But then we continue to tell these kids, no, you can't. And then we put them into a box, and then they'll never get out of that box because no one else told them that this was possible. Well, for whatever reason, I was strong enough to never believe no. Like if someone says no, I'm like, no, that means it is possible because no for you. You're saying no because you can't do it. Like I can do it. And like until I prove to myself that I can't do it, then I don't care what you say. And I've always kind of maintained that mentality. So that's what's continuing to drive me creatively to always believe these crazy things are possible, that a 26-year-old who is in the United States Navy on deployment can go get into NASCAR, and I did within, less than a year from coming off of a ship. I was in the Middle East for 5 months or whatever, sailing around in a warship. And then less than a year later, I was racing on national TV. Like that's because I was just stubborn enough to believe it was possible when no one else did. So that's what creatively drives me right there, was that I continue to believe that if I can see it in my mind, the deal is done in the future. It's already done. That means I've already done it. All I have to do is now have crazy faith, continue to walk the steps and put action towards it every single day, and then just never not believe it's possible. Because as you're going, it will get hard, it will get tough, there will be dark times. But I always tell myself, it's just like, construction world. If you're building a skyscraper, the higher you want to go, the deeper you're going to have to dig. And as you dig deeper, it will get colder, it will get tougher. But if at the end of the night, like when the darkest point of the night, the sun is still going to rise. So just keep thinking that way, keep pushing, and you'll get to all your goals in life.
That's great. No one puts Jesse in a box.
No, not at all. When they try, that's when the fire comes out.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jesse Iwuji, thanks so much for your time, man. I really love all the things that you're doing. Good luck, and thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching and listening to The Creative Drive, where we offer listeners a candid look into the minds of automotive creators and their journeys. The Creative Drive is available on all podcast platforms, and we have more awesome guests lined up for you guys, so please subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. If you're interested in partnering with us, or if you have any feedback, please email us at podcast@racer.com or DM us in our Instagram. The Creative Drive is produced by Molly Binks from Racer Studio, directed by TJ Keon, creative director George Tamayo, and edited by Andrew Snyder. We've got New Nick, OG Nick, and Morgan on the socials. I'm your host, Taro Koki. Thanks for watching again, and we'll see you next time.